Angel Reese called herself the reason people watch women's basketball. So why did every single network just give Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever all games on national TV, while Reese's Atlanta Dream only got 28? What's worse is they still play in a gym that can only hold 3,500 people, while the Indiana Fever easily sells out 17,000 seats per home game. And when Reese found out, she didn't take it well and is reportedly furious. What she said during her tantrum will shock you, but the numbers don't lie and the advertisers don't care about her feelings. Stay right here because the full story is a lot messier than Angel Reese entering the Atlanta Dream locker room. Let me know down in the comments below if you think Reese is delusional. History has already been made before a game has been played. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are cementing their status as must-see TV, the cash cow, the moneymaker, the golden goose, the golden ticket, and the savior of women's basketball. Yeah, no WNBA team has ever had every single regular season game on national television. Not one in the entire history of the league. The Indiana Fever just did it, and the 2026 season hasn't even started yet. Every one of their 44 games lands on a major broadcast partner: ABC, ESPN, NBC, Peacock, CBS, Paramount Plus, USA Network, Prime Video, ION, or NBA TV. That's not one network picking up a few marquee games or a streaming service grabbing the leftovers nobody else wanted. That's 10 different partners all fighting over pieces of the same team's schedule, which has genuinely never happened before in this league. When you've got that many companies writing checks for the same product, it tells you something very direct about what that product is worth right now. You know who recognizes that Caitlin Clark is the face, the end-all be-all for this league? All of these television networks. You know why? All 44 of Caitlin Clark's games will be on national television this season. All 44, not 40, not 41. All 44 will be on national TV because the GOAT is the face. She's not a needle mover. She is the needle. And the reason isn't hard to figure out. Networks pay for eyeballs. Full stop. And Caitlin Clark coming back from an injury-shortened 2025 season meant every single one of those partners ran the same calculation. A healthy Clark running Indiana's offense is the safest bet available in women's basketball. She already proved what she does to ratings before she got hurt. So every network knew exactly what they were buying when they put in for Fever games, breaking TV records again. All 44 games on national TV, most national TV games in franchise history, most national TV games for a single team in the WNBA. All 44 games will be made available. But Clark didn't just come back healthy. She came back to a roster that's actually built to play around her in a way that makes her harder to stop. Aaliyah Boston posting up in the paint pulls defenders away from the perimeter and gives Clark clean driving lanes. Kelsey Mitchell shooting off screens forces defenses to chase two threats at once instead of loading up on Clark. Lexi Hull takes the other team's best perimeter player every single night so Clark doesn't have to burn energy on the defensive end. Sophie Cunningham brings physical toughness off the bench and keeps possessions alive when things break down, so every time Clark pushes pace in transition, or pulls up from 30 feet, there are real players around her making the defense pay. And that makes the whole offense harder to game plan against. In a way, it was a little bit of a mental break, but at the same time, injury is really mentally taxing as well. People don't always realize that, especially when you're at the point of trying to come back, and trying to get over the hump of trusting your body. That's the hardest part. You've done everything you can rehab-wise to get back on the court, and then it's the mental block of trusting your body, and knowing you put the work in. So, it's a little more mentally exhausting from that standpoint. Advertisers don't buy games, they buy audiences. And Clark's audience skews exactly where sponsors want to spend money. So the broadcast math was never really about Indiana's win-loss record, or how far they'd go in the playoffs. It was about the certainty that Clark on a screen means people watch. That certainty alone is now worth all 44 games, which is a number no team in this league has ever hit before. Picture this, not one Fever game this season stays local. Every road game in Seattle, in Phoenix, in Chicago. Every back-to-back in late July when teams are exhausted and the matchups aren't glamorous. Every Tuesday night in August that would normally disappear into the schedule without anyone noticing. All of it gets national treatment. That's the same level of coverage a playoff game gets on ABC, applied to the full regular season of one team, everybody's getting paid more money. They have to figure out how they're going to make some of that money back. And one way you can guarantee a profit with these networks and turn over $1 is by putting Caitlin Clark in front of the camera on national TV as much as possible. The international piece matters too, because Caitlin Clark's fan base doesn't stop at the US border. Peacock and Prime Video carry streaming rights that make her games accessible in a way that pushes the total value of the rights package well beyond what any domestic-only deal could justify. That's a real part of why so many partners jumped in at SO. When you look at the top 5 most televised teams in 2026, and see the Indiana Fever sitting at 44, while the next closest team sits 8 games back, that's not a quirk in the scheduling software. Networks reorganized their entire women's basketball strategy around one player returning to full health. And they were right to do it. Let's actually go through the top 5, and see exactly where everybody else landed, and why Angel Reese is throwing a major tantrum. The takeover, the Caitlin Clark takeover, is rocking and rolling. Dallas is Paige Bueckers and now Azzi Fudd right next to her as the #1 overall pick, and they still couldn't catch Indiana. So picture how far down the list you have to slide before you're not even in the top 5. Yes, I'm looking at you, Angel Reese. Let's talk about the actual numbers. Indiana sits at 44 nationally televised games. The Dallas Wings come in at 36, which is genuinely exciting because Bueckers and Fudd together are entertaining basketball, and networks clearly agree. The New York Liberty land at 35 with their super team, built around Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. The Las Vegas Aces check in at 33, and keep in mind, these are the defending champions with Aya Wilson, who just won MVP, running their offense. The Los Angeles Sparks round out the top 5 at 31. Every single one of those teams plays in a real arena in a major market, or a venue that can pack in thousands of fans, and generate the kind of crowd noise that makes a broadcast feel like an event worth watching. You look around the league, Indiana Fever the most at 44, Wings, 36, Liberty, 35, Aces, 33, Sparks, 31. That seems pretty fair to me in terms of interest. You got the Fever, okay, CC22, say no more. You got the Wings, Paige Bueckers. Liberty at 35. I think the Liberty has a bigger national audience than the Dallas Wings do. I'd be willing to put a hefty sum of money on that. Liberty definitely has a bigger national audience than the Wings. You have the Aces with 33, and the Sparks with 31. The Atlanta Dream, 28 games, is not in the top 5. Angel Reese has spent 2 years telling anyone with a microphone that she's the reason people tune into women's basketball. So either she's been wrong this whole time, or every network in the country somehow missed the memo simultaneously. And networks don't miss memos when there's money on the table. Here's where it gets interesting with the arena situation, because it makes the 28-game number look even worse in context. The Dream play their home games at a facility in College Park, Georgia, that seats around 3,500 people. That's not a typo. The Aces play at Michelob Ultra Arena. The Liberty is in Brooklyn. The Fever pack Gainbridge Fieldhouse. When a network sells advertising against a live game, part of what they're selling is atmosphere. The noise of a packed building and the feeling that something real is happening. And a 3,500-seat gym in suburban Atlanta physically cannot manufacture that, no matter how loud the crowd gets. They gave the league a lot of money. You know they're going to want their fair share of Caitlin Clark. They gave the league a lot of money. You know they're going to want a fair share of CC22. They've got to get that back, recoup that from last year. Advertiser rates on sports broadcasts tie, partly to the perceived prestige of what's on screen. And a half-filled college gym sends a very specific signal to media buyers that a sold-out NBA arena doesn't. That signal affects how aggressively networks bid for those games, which is why the Dream landed at 28, while everyone else in the top 5 was playing in buildings that look and sound like legitimate sporting events on television. Make no mistake, this is a business decision. The Dallas and Indiana comparison is actually worth sitting with for a second. Dallas and Indianapolis aren't New York, Las Vegas, or Los Angeles in terms of media market size. Yet Clark and Bueckers have star power that travels past the local market, and networks will pay for it. And that's why Indiana sits at the top with 44 games. Star power that people outside the home city actually care about is what drives these numbers. And Reese just doesn't move that needle the way she thinks she does. Aya Wilson won MVP. And the Aces are defending champions. And they're still 11 games behind Indiana. The Liberty built a super team, and they're 9 back. So the gap between Clark and the rest of the league isn't just about wins or roster quality. It's a separate category entirely sitting on top of all of that. The Dream are at 28 nationally televised games, playing in a 3,500-seat gym, in a market that doesn't carry the weight of New York or Vegas, on a team that hasn't established what it is yet. And the player who claims she drives viewership has 2 full seasons of evidence that say otherwise. Despite all this, Reese doesn't seem to get the point. Howard didn't say she was excited to play with Reese, or that having her on the same team changes the dynamic in a positive way. She directly said that guarding Reese was basically an easy 30 points every time they matched up, suggesting Reese's defense was so poor that Howard looked forward to those games and took advantage of them. Naz Hillman didn't soften it either. Her exact words were, "Angel's annoying as hell." That's a teammate sitting at the same press conference table before a single game has been played together, describing the person she is supposed to build chemistry with in those terms. You don't typically say that about someone you're genuinely excited to play alongside. Alicia Gray took a similar approach to Howard but phrased it differently, saying she loved playing against Chicago because those were some of her best scoring games. She essentially said she consistently performed well against Reese's team, and now has to adjust to playing with her instead of against her. What stands out is that none of these were trick questions or leading prompts designed to create negative answers. These were standard press conference questions about team chemistry and expectations. Yet 3 different players independently gave answers that pointed in the same direction, suggesting Reese was viewed as more difficult to play against than to play with. The Atlanta Dream front office traded 2 future first-round picks to acquire Reese, so they are committed regardless of how the chemistry develops. But the players around her are not hiding their opinions, and those opinions are already becoming visible early. In summary, some players described their experience as if they were able to play freely against Chicago, putting up strong performances. One even joked about how dominant those games felt offensively. Then there is the reaction to the Indiana Fever's 44-game national television schedule. In this narrative, it is claimed that Reese reacted emotionally and said it was not fair, rather than focusing on improving or using it as motivation. Networks, however, base decisions on ratings and revenue, not individual reactions, and schedule games based on audience demand. That contrast is being used to suggest a difference in mindset. One side focusing on opportunity and exposure, and the other interpreting it as personal unfairness. As training camp approaches, Atlanta is described as having a smaller arena environment, fewer nationally televised games, and a roster still trying to build chemistry. Meanwhile, Indiana is portrayed as having a fully structured roster, strong supporting players, and every game scheduled for national broadcast with Caitlin Clark leading the team. The broader point being made is that the league's visibility and media attention are increasingly centered around Indiana's games, and that the broadcast schedule reflects that shift more than public debate or opinion. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about the situation.